Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Questions with Jamie. Ask Jamie.
Jamie's here. We got a question.
Yeah, so we have a question. It's from, I think, Norm in San Francisco.
Hi, I'm Norm. I have a question for you, Jamie. We've heard that you participated in the Battlebots with the first era of Battlebots, and we know some people who still run the Combots organization now, and you haven't participated in that in a long time. What was your experience like with that? And tell us about the Blendo robot.
Well, first off, I want to throw in the comment that I can't compete in combats or combat or anything like that anymore because I had this reputation for being totally badass with Robot Wars, and now I've been on TV building all this dangerous heavy duty stuff. So I kind of would have to totally kick ass.
Yeah, you can't go in and come in third.
I can't.
Right.
Yeah, I can't show up and not just waste everybody.
Yeah.
Because they're very, these people, you don't have the time to do it. And these people, some of them
are doing it all.
They have their own rings that they've built.
Yeah, they've been there. Some people that are into that kind of stuff, they do nothing but that. And so while I could do a passable, probably, given the same time and effort, I could excel quite a bit, but I just would find that very, if I went out and just got my butt kicked with it, it just wouldn't work for me anymore. But in the Blendo days, yes, I'm generally accredited as the first one to come up with a truly destructive robot, something that was just like ripping other robots apart in one blow.
As opposed to something that flipped or pinned or got up against the wall or just bashed it until it stopped working?
Yeah. Blendo had an exterior that, Blendo weighed a total of about 200 pounds, and its exterior weighed about 150. And the exterior spun at about 500 RPM. So the blades, with the diameter of this outer disc, which initially was just a Chinese wok turned upside down and bolted onto a heavy steel ring that had big bearings around the whole outside. So it basically, this whole flying saucer sort of shape weighed 150 pounds, and the blades that were on the end of it, which were real low to the ground, were were traveling at about 80 miles an hour. And so in many cases, when it hit if it landed, if it had a solid contact with the other robot was toast. It was just like we had several bouts that, matches that lasted 5 seconds. We drive out there, they drive out there, they drive up to us, they explode, and it's over.
So how did they, what was the counter for that? Did they just have to come at you at the right angle and try to glance off?
Well, yeah, there was technically. I mean, I designed it so there was no counter. Like the armor could be, This was an interesting exercise actually when you think about it. You've got a certain weight limit on the robot, and so that's a resource. You can devote that resource to. Powerful motors and batteries. You can devote it to armor. You can devote it to weapons. In my case, I made my armor part of my weapon because the Chinese wok, which was spinning, was part of the mass of the weapon, and so it was you get that mass sped up 150 pounds. All that energy concentrated into one stubby little blade that makes full contact at 80 miles an hour. That's a lot of energy to deliver, and it was delivered in part by the armor. And at the same time, I could concentrate the mass of that out near the perimeter where it was going to have the most effect. Impact, yeah. Because the armor itself, the Chinese wok, didn't have to be that heavy because it was moving.
Right.
If there weren't projectiles weren't allowed, so it wasn't like you could shoot it and penetrate it to get. If you hit that, and to get to the goodies inside that would hurt Blendo the robot. You had to go in and get back out at 500 RPM kind of rotational speed. So that wasn't happening. They couldn't really do that, and the blades And it, because it was all spinning in this smooth shape, if you tried to hit it, you would just glance off. In general, if you tried to run into it, and
Could you flip it over?
my blades were right on the ground, so like I barely had like a half an inch of ground clearance. So anything that was strong enough to do anything there would get nailed. And the also the placement of the blades at that position were something that I figured was. I looked at what features all of these robots were going to have, and they basically were all going to have some sort of wheels or other propulsion that would need to be near the perimeter of their robot for stability reasons. And so that's where I put my blades. You know, I could, even if they had armor, they like even a lip like my armor where there was a half an inch. That's an edge, a weak point, as it were, that if I came into, I'd either beat their armor into their wheels so they wouldn't be able to roll, or I'd go, right through it or cut their wheels. So it was pretty, I was proud of that design, and it actually came to dominate the sport eventually. There were a lot of spinner designs. They're very destructive and in fact, it's, because if you try to generate that kind of power with something that's not already spun up to speed, it requires a lot of that resource that I talked about. Again, this is it's allocating your what you have to work with within the limitations of the sport. So you either have to have a massively strong and therefore massively heavy battery and motor set.
Right.
To be able to, have something that has a rotary kick like that would damage something, or you have to have compressed gas or something like that, which was also a popular thing to have a hammer or whatever. But when you look at what you can do with something like that has to get from a dead stop to full speed with a lot of mass. It's hard to do. Where my robot, it was when you turn it on, it starts spinning up, and it would, over the course of 30 seconds or something like that, it's loading that flywheel and can deliver all of that power instantaneously.
And the trade-off, though, is that you're spinning the entire machine, all that 150 pounds. So that's going to take a more powerful motor than someone who's just spinning a weapon in the front.
Well, it actually didn't, because you don't have to bring it up to speed that quickly.
Oh, so it can build up.
It can build up, and once it gets going, it's kind of like a juggernaut. You're not gonna. Once it gets moving, you've got a problem on your hands. And so how are you? And what are you going to do to stop it? What we found was the only thing that actually made sense with this. We had some robots that were starting to be built specifically for Blendo, and one of them had a relatively mundane interior, but he had like multiple layers of like rubber rods that were going to an outer shell. So we'd beat the crap out of it, and it just would, the outer thing would it was getting all like ripped apart, but he still was going. And every time I would hit, if with enough mass, like on something like that, my robot feels it as well. It's an equal and opposite sort of reaction. But I had designed the whole thing so it basically was a 2-foot diameter axle that the outer thing went on, so it could take a lot of abuse, and it generally did. But it like that guy, he eventually won the batch, or won the bout, because I kept ricocheting off of him, and I ended up in the corner or something, and or what would happen would be the guy that ran the event started putting these immovable heavy things in there, and also intentionally, so that if I would hit one of those, and I'm not, as powerful as that robot was, it wasn't like it was going to be too happy at hitting a 1 foot diameter solid, rod.
So they Rocky
Steel.
Balboa'd you by just going the distance.
Yeah, well, and we'd start to pinball around. We did hit if a robot was tough enough to withstand a few blows, like as not, we were going to ricochet into something in the arena that was massive. And I had, I think, some of the later bouts, my engine block actually just, the motor, gas motor just cracked on its block. Its mounts to the frame of the robot just snapped off because of the impact of this sledgehammer.
Too many hits. Have you watched any of that stuff lately, or is it?
No, it's been years. And Blendo's, it was quite a thing. It was good design. It proved hard to control because all of that weight on the outside, and I kept trying to so that I wouldn't ricochet all over the place. When we would hit something, I tried to increase my traction, and among other things, I had lined the bottom of the robot with rare earth magnets, so it had hundreds of pounds of pull that would give me traction in theory on the arena floor.
You can't put a foil to push down
that fast, like the translation movement.
Well, it doesn't matter. If you've got bearings and everything on your motors, it would no matter how much weight there was, it would handle that. But the problem that I had was that to get that kind of power, magnets have an exponential drop off with distance, and so you need to get them very close to whatever, or ideally right on whatever you want to attach them to. So I had these things at about 1/8 of an inch off of the ground, suspended underneath the central chassis of this robot, and therefore my wheels had to be essentially solid, or if they were springy. And we got a bounce, that exponential thing works to where we could get our own self stuck on
right.
on the ground. So I had to find the sweet spot of just enough distance to get maximum power, and I put steel wheels that I had knurled to give them some traction, intending that they bite into the paint, but they pretty much just worked like skates. So I never quite figured that one out. I was wanting to have some sort of magnetic track wheels that would always grab a hold, and then I could just march out there and never get
just the inevitable march of Blendo.
Yeah, you're gonna have, you got one choice. You got to go through the blade.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jamie. As always, questions, podcast@tester.com is the email address. Questions for Jamie is the subject line. They're filtered by robots, so if you don't get the right subject line, we're never going to get the question. Always a pleasure, Mr. Hyneman.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
Bye.